Hey guys, welcome to the build video of the V2R. Let me go ahead and take off the upper wing beds on the V2R. V2R obviously stands for version 2 race. This is the race version of the legit wing. I was actually taking one of these snap-off blades and actually taking it and actually shaving the little fingerlings off of the foam. Now, one of the things you'll notice about this foam compared to the last year's version of foam is that it leaves a much smoother surface, and of course this wing is much stiffer than last year's foam. Really nice foam, leaves a perfectly nice clean edge on the leading edge and everywhere else. So let's get rid of this mess of stuff that comes off your wing. It'll take you a good 20 minutes to get the top and bottom of each wing finished. Like I said, these snap-off blades really work well. You want to make sure that you're keeping the blade pretty parallel with the wing as you're coming along, and just light pressure. And as the blade comes along and catches something, you just want to kind of shave it off, kind of bring it past the spots where it's actually getting hung up. But it's actually much easier than last version. Okay, that leaves our two wings here and the lower wing beds. Hot glue the two wing beds together. Now here's a very important point that sometimes the thickness of either side is not going to be exactly accurate. So what you want to do is make sure that the bottom edge of the wing, where the bottom edge would be, is actually lined up. So if the thickness underneath those two is off, you're going to have a crooked wing. So if you what you want to do is make sure that this top surface is the surface that is actually coming together and you're gluing. There might be a little bit of gap underneath here when you're done. Got the two surfaces. I can run my hand down the surface of the wing bed here and everything is perfectly flat now. Top edge is dead perfect all the way down, and that's what you want. That means that your two wing halves are going to be glued together in the most accurate fashion possible, and that's where a big mistake comes in if you don't have these wing beds. When you've got a rounded lower portion of your wing, you can actually get torque going from one side of the wing to the other that can really throw off the performance of your wing. It can really create some handling issues that you're not even aware of. Okay guys, in getting this wing prepared to glue the two halves together, you want to make sure that you have both sides butted up exactly even on each edge, and the front leading edge, back trailing edge. Today we're going to be using goop to glue the two halves together. You can use hot glue if you wish. You can also use foam tack and anything that's foam safe. There's also welder's glue, which ends up being very nice as well. I'm going to use goop because it's something I really believe in. The goop has a very interesting quality, is when it dries it actually helps to pull everything together, which is a really nice quality to have. So what I'm going to do is going to use these sewing needles, these sewing pins here. I'll just get out a few of these so I can grab them quickly. I'm going to put some pins crossways through here. At this point, it might be nice to have like a stick or an old propeller that's been broken. I'm going to use this one right here, broke propeller, just to help smooth out the goop. So I'm going to goop both sides actually. I'm going to go fairly quickly here. And really squeeze this guy out here. Goop dries fairly quick, so you want to move fast on these. So I'm going to leave this here. Leave this here. Alright, bring it all the way to the edge here. I'm sure this is going to drip out a little bit. I'm going to take my prop. Make sure this is all nice and incorporated. There we go. Alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and get these joined together. Goop takes a little bit longer to dry. I don't mind though the extra time here. Yeah, take this little extra bit off. I like to use gloves, as you guys can see. You don't have to. I'm going to start pressing the two halves together here. I'm going to make sure everything is lined up here. Leading edges, sides, posterior section here, posterior being the back. You start pushing this together and wiping off here. You'll see as it pushes together, it starts to ooze out just a little bit. There we go. It's looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and throw some pins through here. make sure that none of your wing ends are lifting up, because that would indicate torque. And it's looking really nice here, so that's good. Okay guys, when you get to this part of the video, and I'm going to mention this now because I forgot to mention it when I was recording it, and obviously we're already finished, but there are 3 fiberglass spars here. They're 48 inches long. So what you're going to do is make sure you cut 2 of them 27 inches from end to here, and then you're going to have enough room on this side to make 2 of your 18-inch spars. Now the 27s are the ones that go from here to here, and you might actually, it could be 27, it could be 28, it might be 26, depending on where you put this. But the 18s are what go here and here. I have 2 27s going across here, 1 for top, 1 for bottom, and 4 18s. 2 here, top and bottom, 2 here, top and bottom. If you cut these wrong, then you're going to run out of spars for your wings. So make sure you cut them right. Okay, so good luck on your build, and hopefully it turns out as nice as this one did. Thanks. Okay guys, so I'm going to be cutting out the slot in the center of the frame, which is going to be right here. And there's going to be 2 ways of doing this actually, and I can thank Shane for helping me out with this. The way I'm going to show you to do it right now, you can actually do it a second way. Now the second way I'll be doing on the next build of the 40 or the FG36 But basically you're going to cut the slot out before you glue the two halves together, which to me seems like a much easier way of doing it. So I'm going to use a popsicle stick for a measuring tool. 2 popsicle sticks high would be exactly the same thickness as the back of the airplane here. So now I'm not using the wing bed at this point. The most important part about this step is to keep the blade perpendicular with the flat surface that you're going to be cutting against, so that the motor mount does not get canted forwards or backwards. It should be parallel with the table. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and cut out the center section here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this down. Make sure you have a brand new cutting knife. These are the snap-off knives. So let's take this part out. So this could be our spacer. I'm going to go up to here and cut across, up to here, cut across, and we have to dig this a little bit deeper, all the way up to here. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. And before I took a little white pencil here and I kind of marked off where the sides were, just in a general sense, so that we could know where that's at. What I would suggest, I've got a bit of a raised piece of wood here. Have it on the outside of the counter here, and make sure that you're pressing this down straight. And we're just going to come straight across here. Excuse me. Make sure the blade is parallel with the counter. So we're going to come straight across here. Just going to come slowly. Keep that blade super flat. Careful as you're coming towards yourself. It shouldn't slip because you're going through an entire thing of foam here. I'm going to move the spacer down here a little bit. Okay. There we go. Now we'll do the other side. Hopefully you guys can see this. Oh, my hands are probably completely in the way. But, okay, that looks great. So let's just test fit this real quick, make sure that it can go in. And there we go. It goes in pretty well. And so now we just need to make this a little bit deeper so it'll fit the entire motor mount here. Now I forgot about this, we're actually going to need to cut this a little bit wider for the holes to appear. So we'll be doing that as well. So that will probably help us out a little bit. And this technique, by the way, is something that can be used on all the airplanes from Team Legit, not just this airplane. There we go. Looks like it's going through pretty easily here. So you want to make sure it goes all the way through. You can see that we have this nice cut through here, nice and perfectly straight. Using this popsicle stick spacer was a fantastic idea. Thank you, Shane. This pocket, if you just leave it the thickness of this knife, when you insert this plate, which is probably about 3 times as thick as this knife, it's going to make the foam bulge out. So we need to find a way of slotting that out. And one thing that that was mentioned to me from Shane is that you can actually take a flat ruler that's metal, heat up the end of it, and actually stab it in there and make a little bit of a groove in there. That's something you can do. You don't have to. It probably would not be a mistake to not do it, but let me just fit this in there and make sure that this is correct. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the spots here for the drill holes. The motor mount holes, I should say. That is perfect. And I've just cut out about another centimeter or so. So let me do that on the bottom too. Okay, fellows and ladies out there, so what we're going to do is we're going to heat up about the last 3 inches of this ruler, and it is almost as thick as this motor plate here. What's nice is when you do heat it up, it's basically going to singe the inside of the foam and give it a little bit of a recess for your motor mount to fit into. So you're going to need some sort of a torch. I have a mini torch here. You can use a full-size propane torch if you want, but we're going to go ahead and heat this up. Hopefully it doesn't ruin my ruler, but it might. Let's see. I'm putting on some gloves just to make sure that in case I do hit something that's hot, you know, it's not going to initially burn me. So we'll go ahead. Yeah, that's pretty
pretty good. And here we go. It's going to take basically the path of least resistance, so that's sounding really nice in there. That looks great. Guys, so let's see how our motor mount fits in here now. Slides in, almost no effort whatsoever, so that is perfect. I've got the last bit of my goop here. What I'm going to do first, I'm actually going to slide some of the goop onto this ruler and pass it down in there, inside of the wing. Put it right here on the tip so it slides in. Then I'll be gooping the entire wing, the motor mount in there. So let's put this in here, get it kind of moved around, put some more on. There we go. So we can get some way deep inside here. Alright, that looks pretty good. Okay, we'll be wiping that off in a second. We'll go ahead and put all the rest of the glue on here. A lot on the leading edge because that's going to be the first thing that's going to be going into the foam. You have to be careful not to cover over the motor mount holes, of course. That would be bad. I'm going to put a lot of goop in there. I don't want this thing coming out. Alright, I think that looks pretty darn good, so let me go ahead and slide this bad boy in here. Like I said, the most critical part of this is getting everything lined up perfectly. There we go. There she is. Got to get all this excess off of here. Nice part about the goop is that you have time. You have time to make decisions. When you do this with hot glue, you don't have that time. You will be struggling to get this in the right spot. Just need a little piece of cardboard here. I need to take a little bit of this goop out of here. There we go. Okay guys, just a quick little update here. I decided that this wasn't quite enough weight because as I was pushing it down there was still stuff oozing out, so I just got 2 small clamps and used the wing bed to give it light pressure, enough to start squeezing it and making things ooze out. And I'm not pressing it so hard that it's going to make an indentation on the foam there. So just to let you know, it's just something that you can do or not do. I think the other way would have just been fine, but I'm going to just go ahead and do it this way. So at this point we have all of our spars placed, and now it's time to start cutting out the bays for your battery, your receiver, your servos, and your VTX. So I'm just going to kind of back up here and take some of this stuff off of here. First I'm going to go over the servos and where you want to place them. In this build, the further forward you can get all of your components, the less weight you'll have to add to the nose of this wing. Most wings need a little bit of weight on the front with cameras and external weight. So I'm going to make these servos go as far forward as I can. Now, you don't want to be placing the control rods really close to the edge of the elevon here. So you want to have it right about in the meat of the elevon. And the way you're going to do this is take your control rod that comes in your kit, place your servo on its face here. Because we want this to be the most aerodynamic, that we're going to embed these servos the way they are laying down here, not perpendicular. And the reason for that is just so that there's less servo hanging out to catch the wind. So what I did is I measured 5 inches from this little point right here, this flat piece right here, right where this angle is, 5 inches in this direction. So you take your ruler, and we're going to go to 5 inches here. This is coming straight across, so this is exactly 5 inches right here. And what I want to have line up with that is the servo horn is going to line up straight with that 5 inch spot. Now what you're going to have to do when you have a dark wing like this, if you have the dark one, you won't have to do this if you have the light wing, is you're going to need to have a white pencil or some sort of a marker pen that you can actually see the outline of the servo here. Now these wings here, I'm going to be cutting these off to save in weight, and also and just so I don't have to cut off as much material. But you probably can't see it, but I do have a light scribe here of where I'm going to be cutting the foam. We're going to do the same thing with the VTX. The VTX is going to be right here, and the receiver is going to be on this side. You're always going to want to keep your video on the left side, so that you have, this prevents wires getting crisscrossed and mingled up here. This is just a dummy receiver. I'm probably not going to use this one, but I'm going to make this a slight bit longer because I probably am going to be using Dragon Link, which is a little bit longer. You can always cut these bays bigger later on down the road. You'll have enough material to do that. So I've got my receiver, I've got my VTX. Next comes the battery. This wing's going to be flying with about 3,300 milliamp. This is a 3,200 milliamp flat car pack. So this is going to be kind of my dummy my dummy battery pack for this build. So what I did is I made the battery go as far forward as I can towards barely touching the corners. Are going to be touching the spars here, and I'm going to make it slightly larger than it needs to be. So I'm going to move this back here. I already scribed a line here in the front, and I'm making it about a quarter of an inch longer than it needs to be here. So I'm going to be putting a line here and here. Now about the battery bay. Now there's a couple options that you can do for the battery bay, because you will have chloroplast. Your kit's going to come with chloroplast that's going to be, it's intended for the bottom of this bay. You can either do it that way, or you can use a router to route out all this foam and leaving a thin bottom, which you would glue over. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to cut out this complete block of foam here, and then I'm going to re-glue in this chloroplast as the bottom because it's going to add strength. So that's the way I'm going to do it. So this piece I'm going to cut all the way through and remove this complete block of foam, make this piece of chloroplast a little bit larger than the actual battery bay, and then glue it into place completely flush with the bottom of the wing. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Now there's a couple ways of cutting out these bays here for your components and your servos. One way to do it is by getting a router, a Dremel router, cutting out the outside edges and then routing it out, which is a great way of going. I don't have a router, so I'm going to do that with basically a knife technique. X-Acto blade. Now you will want to make sure that this is very sharp, because if it's not, it will drag and pluck off foam that you don't want to have come off. Then, right. Okay, so this it's tough getting this stuff out of here. There's no two ways about it. One of the ways you can go about this is going kind of at an angle here. You can dig in and go across at an angle like this, and popping this out. Gonna go in and turn, and then we get like about half of it out. And we're gonna go to the other side. And there, you can actually take this and burn the bottom flat as well if you really wanted to get you know, kind of crazy with it. As always, you have to be super careful when you are dealing with sharp knives, so please use a fulcrum and know what you're doing. Fulcrum means that you're stabilizing your hand on the airplane or the counter as you're doing this, or you're helping using a guide. Okay, so there we go. Get together like that, and let's check this servo here. Okay, that servo is pretty much done. So guys, now I'm cutting out the battery bay for my VTX and also my receiver, which is going to go here. I'm going to make this a general length. This is going to be 2 3/4 inches in a rectangular shape, and similar for this side here. Now these are going to be covered over with chloroplast later on. So I'm here at 2 3/4 inches right here. Once again, make sure your knife is very sharp. Nice VTX box. There's a little bit of a hump here, so I'm going to take that off. That looks like a nice bay there, so this is going to go right inside here. I'm probably going to take these little nibs off of the little mounting nibs off of here. Okay guys, so as mentioned before, I made some scribe lines on the frame here that you probably can't see, but I'm going to be cutting this all the way through. I'm going to make this box just about 1/4 of an inch wider than what this is here. So as you can see, the edge is here, and the other edge comes to here, and I'm going to make my cut right about there. So my wing. It's a little unnerving, but don't worry guys, this is all part of the process, part of the plan. Okay guys, when you get to this portion of the build where you're putting in the battery chloroplast bottom, that's right here, it looks a little bit like this. This is a little bit bigger than what it should be. Now there's a thing that Johnny told me that I totally forgot to do, which is using some of the fiberglass rod to help to sink this material into the foam. It's just a little extra step that you can do. It's not completely necessary, but what I would do is I would hang about a ½ inch out of each side, and as you're placing this in and gluing it, this little extra bit of rod is going to help strengthen the whole wing as it were. So if you guys want to do that, good luck. Okay guys, we just cut out our battery box, and now we're ready to put the chloroplast into here. So what we have to do is we have to take this the foam on the outside edge of here and recess the foam to where it'll accept the chloroplast, which is about, let me just focus this in here a little bit. It's about that thick right there. So basically lay this on here, and I'm going to basically have about a ½ inch border all the way around that I'm going to recess this piece into. That's going to help to strengthen the wing where this battery box is and give it a nice look here. You want to do this before painting, because if you don't, you will be out of luck. You'll have to repaint it once it's all covered. Okay, so these corners are going to go into where the spars are, so we're actually going to probably chop these corners off, but I'm going to go ahead and measure this here. Keep equal amount on both sides here. I'm going to go ahead and mark this the best I can with this white pencil. Doesn't do a very good job, but it'll give me a kind of a reference point. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go off of these marks here. Okay, so what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to go down just a very small amount, and we're going to go just to this point here and about to this point right here. So we're going to go down right about to there. Let's see my scribe mark here. Okay. You want to keep these lines straight and clean. So we've got these scribe lines all the way through here, and it only went about as thick as this chloroplast, because that is where our window is going to be. So what you have to do is now is go from the side here and cut through about as thick as the chloroplast here. Okay guys, right over here, this spar is not quite as deep as this one, so I will need to modify the chloroplast on this side a little bit. So let's just see here how this is going to line up. Looks really nice, like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut this across right here. And that fits perfect in there. Nice. What I'm going to do is lay in my goop right here, and we're going to get this gooped in. There we go. Nice and flush all the way through. Okay guys, so this is the point in the video where you're going to start doing your paint, and what I am coming up with is a hexagon design, and I'm going to be probably using this as a template. See, I've cut out the hexagons from this type of paper that I printed out off the internet. Probably going to come over something like this and probably tack this down with Super 77 to start with, and then paint it with Plastidip, white Plastidip on here, which I think would look really pretty cool. Then I might take these negatives that I pulled out of here, and I might put them on over here. So I'm hoping its design comes out pretty cool. So I shall check it out. It looks like it should be awesome. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've got my wing painted, got the front, top, and the bottom here. Now I have this sprayed with Super 77. This is a spray contact adhesive, and what this is going to do is it's going to help bond the laminate to the frame here. So at this point you could have your servos in place if you want to do that before you're laminating. I choose not to. I know Johnny likes to put his servos in first, but you also want to take a hot rod basically, and you want to make basically a hot tunnel through from your servo bay to your VTX or receiver bay. So basically there should be a tunnel going from this servo spot to the VTX tray, from the VTX tray to the battery tray. So there's these little holes that go through here basically. So you can take a torch, heat it up, be very, very careful. You might need to put a little bend in your wire so you can get in there and circle it around. So you might have to do it a few times to make an appropriate sized tunnel. But you want to make sure that there's connections going all through here. And you're going to have your FPV camera in the front here. So we will eventually be tunneling a little hole from here into the battery bay, which will go to your video transmitter. Okay, so we can do that later as well. So what we're going to concentrate on right now is the lamination process. Alright guys, so what we're going to do here is we're going to leave about an inch of laminate on the very back edge right here. Your kit may vary. You might have about an inch overhang on the sides here. I have a big roll of laminate, so I have about 3 or 4 inches here. Make sure that when you're laying the laminate down that it is nice and flat everywhere. I'm going to start from the center and work my way out. I tend to run my iron right at about half throttle, I guess, if you want to call it that. And we work our way outwards. Now, I tend to like to maybe do like a little stripe, so I do the middle, I do like a little stripe and a little stripe and a little stripe. So that way if you get a little bit of a waver in the laminate, that it doesn't carry that wrinkle all the way through to the end. So you'll see here, right here it's kind of bunching up. I think I might cut this right here so it lays flat, because basically it's like a house, like 2 halves come together, so there's nowhere for this laminate to go. It's right in the center. I like to do right in the center, and you'll see now as you start to laminate, you'll start to see the color coming through the laminate, which is really nice to see. I'm gonna go up through here a little bit. I like to pull this nice and tight. Just do a little stripe like that. Stripe like this. It's going to look really nice. Now before you start this, you want to feel your wing and make sure there's no imperfections hanging out. I should also mention, as I'm doing this, the wing bed is underneath here, so you're not just doing this on a flat counter, because as you're heating and pressing you can actually warp your wing. So make sure that you have your wing bed underneath like I do. You want to make sure you're never in one spot for too long. You always want to keep the iron moving. Okay, so we've done the top side. We're going to flip this over. Okay guys, I've flipped the wing over and I swapped out my wing bed, so I have the top underneath the top. And what we're going to do is make sure you have a very sharp box knife. And what we're going to do is on these back corners here, we're going to make a diagonal cut. Oh, I forgot to mention, hang on. I forgot to mention, make sure that when you pull, because this is tacky, it's going to want to pull up some of the hairs from the bottom wing bed. So make sure that you re-clean this off. If there's any hairs that are here, you want to make sure that this is the time to take them off, because they will become permanent as soon as we're done doing this. So we've got a diagonal cut here, and this is going to be end up being kind of a little bit of a triangle here. I'm going to use the scissors because it seems like my other thing wasn't cutting very much. So I'm cutting right to here, this little corner here. From here to here, it's going to make basically a little triangle. So we're just going to go like this. Alright. So this is going to flap in here. So first thing we're going to do is going to wrap this over and laminate it just like this. So we're going to do this first. And like I was saying, make sure your iron does not hit the paint, because it'll start to get kind of sticky. There we go. Okay, so go right up to about a centimeter before the edge of the laminate, because as this folds down, we're going to seal all this together anyway. So take this little corner, fold it over. Okay, so I'm going to pull this back a little bit so you guys can see what we're doing here. Keep your wing halves together. Pull this back here. Now I'm going to put a cut straight down the center line right here. Okay guys, so we've folded this first half of the right half of this wing over. And like I said, you kind of want to pat it down, just kind of do a production of what is going to happen here. So once again, I'm going to just take my iron, I'm just going to go straight down like this. I like to do it in strips, about 1 iron's length across. Like I said, this prevents kind of running, I like to call them running wrinkles that will keep, once you get a wrinkle kind of folded over, then it really can keep running on you. Okay, now we're going to pull the other side. Once again, make sure you have a very sharp razor knife. What we're going to do is just going to lift up this back edge here. Don't start from the very start, but actually start about a centimeter in here. Okay, this is looking really nice. So this is going to keep a nice smooth airfoil here. Let's just feel this wing here. Feels nice and stiff, so it's really, oh man, this is going to be a great wing. So so the edges here, some people like to fold over the edges and laminate the edges. I don't like that. What I like to do is just cut this straight off so that the winglets actually have real foam to glue onto. If it glues onto this and then it becomes delaminated, it seems like your winglet can come off way too easy. So these little corners that need a little bit of laminate here, just take a little straight piece. Might as well give it a little bit of reinforcement here. I'm just going to cut this right here at the edge. Alright guys, now I'm going to go ahead and just cut out my battery base. So basically we're ready to place our electronics. I have the elevons being painted over there, so I'll come back with the elevons in just a moment. Okay guys, we're almost finished. All we have to do is attach our elevons, which we just laminated, and this is probably one of the easiest processes that we can go through. Section is we're going to line up the straight edge right here with the elevon, and you're going to see about an 1/8 of an inch gap between here and your winglet right here. This is the way I did my original legit wing. I'm going to turn this over here. I'm going to cut off the excess. And you might think, you know, well, isn't that packing tape just going to come off? But the answer to that question is a resounding no. I have crashed my original legit wing so many times. I've never even had any, even a thought of these elevons ripping out. In fact, I still have the same piece of tape that I originally started with. If that can tell you anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to peel this back just a little bit. I'm going to line up the elevon. You want this to have about a 1 millimeter to maybe about a 1/2 millimeter gap, and you want this to flap up and down completely freely. There we go. Look at that. Angles down, angles up. Now if you want to flip this over and put an additional piece of tape here, you certainly can. I'm not going to do it because it's just not really necessary. I learned from my last legit wing that it's just it holds really nice. Even if this starts tearing away or something like that, you can always just flip this over, put another piece of tape right here. So that's it. There we go. Okay guys, when placing your servos, you want to get them kind of in the directions that they're going to go, and you also want to take a servo tester and center your servos beforehand. Get your servo horns lined up to where they're pretty much equal to each other. You want to have this. You don't want to have any accidental differential going on in your wings. So now, because this is a demo build, I'm actually not going to glue my servos in. But what you want to do is run hot glue around each servo. So we'll do this one at a time. So our receiver is going to be going on this side over here. Once again, with a hot rod, I actually made a hole through here. I'm going to see if these servos can actually make it through. So we'll try and pass this through here. You're going to need some sort of a long nose, needle nose pliers to get these through here. Pull this on through. Yay! There we go. So once again, this is going to be all glued into place right here. I'm going to go ahead and push that in. There we are. There's our servo. And I can always put some laminate over here to make sure that this is as aerodynamic as possible. So this, I'm going to be needing to run an extension that goes from here into this pod. This one we're going to have to go through this here, and this over here. So this one's going to have to go through 3. Oh, I almost got it. Oh, we're vertical here. There we go. Almost. Yay! I happen to have an extension right here which should bring me right into my receiver. I found that if you twisted this as you went through, it just burrowed its way through instead of digging its own slot. Okay. Alright, so we'll hook this up, yellow for yellow, red for red, brown for brown. There we are. And this has a nice lead going into our receiver pocket. Okay guys, we're going to start to install the wing hardware here. What you should have right now is 2 of these brass ends that go into the ends. It's the ends of the threaded rod. You should have 2 of these wing. These go right at the servo, and I'll show you how to use these in just a moment. You should have a set of horns that go on the end of your wing into your elevon, and basically 4 screws that are going to go through into the backing plate. So we'll go ahead and take a little bit of a close-up of that. If I bring this down, okay, so this should be right now just perfect. So what I'm going to do is put a little line here. That is where I want my clevis to go. It's going to go right about here. And sorry about the noise, guys, if you guys can hear any. Now you want the holes of this clevis to basically intersect with the hinge line of the airplane, unless you're trying to do some funky type of differential in your wing. So this is where we're going to place it here. Right here. Okay, I'm just going to poke a little hole here. There we go. So I've got the 2 holes here. I'm actually going to make these holes just a slight bit bigger with this little hand drill. Okay, you can see that allows a lot of up movement and down movement right there. Okay guys, so this is what the final horn is going to look like here. There's the backing plate right there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and complete the other side, and I'll join you guys in a sec. Take your control rod and your brass fitting here and thread one into the other. And what you're going to do is wind this to where you can see a bit of thread out the other way. So basically you can turn this either way about a ½ centimeter or so. So what we need to do now is measure this forward and find out where we're going to put our 90-degree bend in this wire. So before we do this, we need to make a hole that's big enough for this wire to go through. Now you can either do this with a drill, but I found the easiest way to do this is actually to heat this up with your torch, and whichever hole you're going to go through here, I'm going to go the second one down from the tip here and go ahead and push this all the way through, and that makes a perfect hole for this. It's better than drilling, because once you drill a little bit too much, then you really have no recourse. Actually, this hole here is really tiny in these servos, so I'm going to just actually take my little hand drill and drill this out, so it just makes it a little bit easier for me to push that rod through. Make sure you don't get this anywhere near the things that you need to. Don't get this near your wing, obviously. We're heating this up. There we go. Get it nice and hot, and we'll go through. Pushes it all the way through. Now as you go all the way through, now you're actually cooling it. You let this cool down a little bit and you pull it back through, and now you have a perfect pocket for this to go through. Put the clevis this into the horn here, and then we'll make our 90-degree bend at the appropriate spot. You don't have to be exact because of course you have recourse by winding this in and out. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on the second hole down on my horn here. Okay, so I'm going to make a little hole, mark here right where the actual hole is. So what do we do from here? We're just going to cut this here, and then we're going to pass it through, and then we have the little keeper that's going to clip this together. What's going to happen is we're going to put this, snap this little keeper on there. So basically you need to have this wire just a little bit longer than that little keeper. So I'm going to cut it right about here. There we go. Okay, so let's put this all together. So we'll put the clevis here on the second hole down. We're going to pass this wire through the end here, and it looks like I went a little bit too long. Not by much though, so we can actually screw this in a little bit. We'll pass this right through the hole that we burned right there. It's going to be a nice tight fit. Watch your fingers. This is a bit of a sharp end, so if you have some sandpaper you can actually sand that down. So what we're just going to do is put this nylon catch right there, and we're going to snap that right on. There we go. We have a nice linkage there. Oh, there we go. Okay, so there is my linkage to my servo, and I'm going to follow it down to this guy right here. So if I pull on this a little bit here, and if I pull on the elevon, there's absolutely no play there. It's just perfect. So okay, so you're going to do that to the other side, and I'll join you in just a little bit. Okay guys, so I've scored the outside here. I'm going to take my blade from the side here and just start slightly cutting back the... Well, okay guys, sorry, my camera actually ran out of battery, so what I did is I actually finished just lightly cutting out this section here for my battery bay. And what I did is I went ahead and I cut this to size, make sure that it fit really, really nice, and it does. Fits right in there. Now in the corners here, you have your spars, and what you can do is cut back just half of the chloroplast, which is just fine. You also want to make a hinge by cutting through 1/2 of the side of the lid here. So what we're going to do is going to get this press it in here, make sure it's in the right spot. Because I'm going to goop to right here, and then later on I'm going to hot glue these two edges down so that I don't really have to, put it in a clamp for a long time. So that'll be that. So let's go ahead and goop this front edge right here. We're going to take our goop, and I'm just going to run a bead right on this front edge here. Just from spar to spar. And this part we can actually clamp if we really want to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of get all this stuff off of here. Get it all in here. Make sure that it is completely seated the way it should. Alright, that is perfect. What I'm going to do is actually tape this into place. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and finish up this build. We only have really 3 more things to do. We're going to glue on our winglets and also our center skids and place our motor, and then our build is basically going to be done. You'll be adding on all of your own electronics later on, FPV gear, receiver, and ESC. Now ESC, we're just going to embed right in the space between the motor and the battery cover here. So that'll be whatever size you're going to be making it there, so that'll be up to you. So we're going to start off first with the winglets. Now, there's a couple of key things about the winglets that you need to pay attention to. What I've done is I've measured this little spot right here, and this is going to be right behind the edge of the wing right here. And that's basically so I can visually tell where the center of that wing piece is. You'll also notice I have a little mark here, and this marks the center of the front point. Now there's this little bit of a hump right here, and that's going to go towards the bottom. This is top, this is bottom. You can see there's more of a sharp edge here, and this is kind of a softened edge here to give it a little bit more of a skid. So there's a couple ways we can go about this. I'm going to take the end of my wing, and I'm going to actually poke this a little bit with a knife, just so that as I'm putting glue on here, it actually squishes into the wing so it really grabs on. That's number one, but number two is I'm also going to run a small bead of hot glue in the middle of the goop so that I can put it on, I can position it and get it into place, and the hot glue will hold this in place as the goop is drying, which is going to be a real interesting thing to do. There's short winglets and there's long winglets, and basically I took this was a long winglet, and basically I shortened it to where it's just short enough to clear the elevon, so you can actually set this up on its side and not hit the elevon. So we're going to go ahead and get into that right now. Here's just a little bit of theory that I've learned from Chris Click and Johnny Meg, is that when you're placing your winglets on, you do not want this front edge right here to extend beyond the front portion of this wing here. So basically, you want this to be lined up right there and not there. Because what will happen is the air will come through here and it'll actually catch and bunch up in this area, and that's what will cause sometimes wing waggle, and it'll make your wing waggle back and forth. So what you want to do is actually position this as far back. You see I've got the point there. Point is going to touch right at the point of the wing right there. You don't want any of this winglet to extend forward of the leading edge. All right, so I'm going to get my hot glue gun ready. Hey guys, so this is just something that I do, and I've done this with other builds. I just take a blade, I just kind of stab it in here. And what this is going to do is going to allow the goop to really get deep inside the wing and really have a nice attachment point. Okay, as I've said in the past, guys, save your old propellers, because this is good for smearing goop, and it helps save the earth, and it plants trees while you're at it. Okay, here we go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this over with goop, and then I'm also going to put a little bit of hot glue on here. I'm going to leave a little pocket right in the center if I can. So I'm going to take this around the outside edge of this wing here, and then I'm going to run a bead of hot glue right in the center so that the hot glue will dry faster than the actual goop. So here we go. And what I'm going to be doing is when I put this together, I'm going to aim for this dot to go right in the leading edge point of this wing, and this dot here, which I can see will be right in the center of the back of the wing here. Okay, so here we go. Let's put this on fairly heavy right on the edge. There we go. Maybe I don't need the smearing technique here. I don't know. Let's see here. That looks pretty good. Looks like it'll squish in there real nicely. All right, I'm going to put some hot glue on here, and we're going to go real fast now. Hot glue in there, and I'm going to push this on really tight, making sure everything is lined up. It's going to hold here, and probably for about a minute or so. Okay guys, we have the one winglet on, and we're going to do something a little different for this next winglet. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to prep it the exact same way. I'm going to put the holes in it and everything. And when we put the second winglet on, what we're going to do is we're actually going to stand the wing up on its edge. So basically that these 2 points are touching the counter. This is a flat counter. And so when we actually put this one on, we're going to line it up our points, and we're going to make sure that we are not peg legging on 3 legs like this and be rocking back and forth. So we're going to have this on like this. We're going to place it in place. Once we get it in place, we will hold it there. So okay, so I'm going to kind of hold this together, and we'll go ahead and set this on the counter. And this is squirming around here, so I need to pull this back up to there. Make sure the back of my wing is lined up, and it's not. It's kind of moved a little bit. Let's try that one more time. Let's check this one more time. Yep, that sets on 4 points. Okay, I'm just going to let this dry a little bit. And one thing I do after everything is dry is I run a bead of hot glue right at the edge where the wing meets the winglet. Also, if there's any extra glue left on here from this one process here, I'll just go ahead and take my card and go ahead and wipe that off. We don't need the excess on there right now. So I'm going to just check the balance on this one more time. And that looks really nice. Okay, alright, so we're going to let this dry and we'll be going on to the nose skids and the motor mount. Okay, this is the step where we're going to be putting in the nose guard skids, and you can see that I have these T-pins already pre-placed so that when we put the goop in here, you can do this with goop or with hot glue again. So I'm going to do this with goop, so when you put the goop in here and put this on, I can actually take my T-pins and push them down through and it'll hold this in the right position. So I have a couple of marks here on the wing where straight is, so I'm going to be adhering to that. I've got two little marks here. It's about an inch and a quarter on either side of the center mark here, so your FPV camera is going to be right in here. So this is what's going to be protecting your FPV camera. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one at a time and have your broken propeller ready. So because getting into this little crevice here is going to be a little hard without smearing it on there with that. So and you're going to work fairly quick because once the goop is exposed to the air, it does start drying fairly quickly. I'm going to go ahead and just throw a pretty big healthy bead right on there. And that is a lot. Okay, so I'm going to use my propeller to kind of squish this around. I really don't care if it gets too messy because I'd rather have this stick on than not. Okay. And push this on. And then push this pin in. There we go. There's one. I'm going to turn it over and make sure that this is completely straight. You can see my mark right here, so I need to pull this over to the side. Now I will go back and I will hot glue the edges of all the skids as well, just for another added bit of protection. So I've got my mark here and my mark here, and it's completely lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and go for my second one. You see, when you're not using hot glue, you have a lot of time to plan what you're doing here. So sorry guys, I'm not in shot there. I'm so sorry. I can't go back and redo this, unfortunately, for the video. Okay, guys, so what you're going to see here is the skids in place, lined up to my marks, the T-pins in, push them down here a little bit more just to give them some strength. And the next bit on this is just to put the motor in, and that is the last step in this build. Okay guys, inside your kit you're going to see this motor mount. It looks like an L bracket that has lots of holes in it. The cool thing about this motor mount is you can actually run it both ways. You can take it and flip it 180 degrees around and have this portion of the motor sticking out the back of your airplane if you wish. I tend to prefer this type of prop mount. This is the Sunny Sky 2216 size motor with a 1250 kV. But if you do choose a different style of motor, or say larger, it has the larger mounting holes for it, and it's a very versatile motor mount, which is very cool. So I'm not going to bore you guys by cinching down these bolts. I know you guys know how to do that, so I will talk to you guys in a sec. And let me just show you guys these hatches here. Hang on. So this is my battery bay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run a little bit of Velcro here and here, and that'll Velcro down. I have a little pull tab here for my VTX right there, and we've got the receiver that's going to go in here, and I don't have the pull tab on this one, so I can't pull it up as easily, so I will be doing that in a second. But okay guys, well, I think you know what I think about this airplane. It is going to be an awesome racer. It's just streamlined for absolute aerodynamics. I can't wait to get this up in the air. I'm not sure if I'm going to be flying this one or if I'm going to be giving this one back to Johnny. I kind of hate to give it away, I know. So I love the paint job. It came out great. Everything about this build just screams quality, and I hope you guys enjoy your build. Thanks so much to Johnny with Team Legit. This is Jeff from 7Demo7, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for joining my channel. Bye.